So the next big topic, I think, about the Raiders, this is a huge one. I think for the both of us could agree. QB, quarterback, man, we really need to figure out what we're going to do here. So I'm curious, Drew. I did write down a couple of, I wrote down this question. I know it's titled differently, but we've got roughly 4 different options to go quarterback. So one, we can keep Aiden O'Connell, roll with him and see how it goes. This would be his first year, essentially in a new program under AP, and he'd have a new OC and all that other stuff. Second would be trading for Fields. I mean, our name has been circling around the field, Justin Fields, where he's going to go, if he's going to stay in Chicago or go somewhere else. The Raiders have been tied to that. So that'd be number 2. Number 3 would be we sign a quarterback free agent and, we go in that route. To me, that sounds like we're more of a renovation than a rebuild. So we'll see how that goes. Fourth option would be drafting a quarterback. So I'm curious, out of those 4, what direction would you like to see the Raiders go?
Out of those 4, I'd way much rather draft a quarterback. I'd rather... Listen, I wasn't impressed with Aiden O'Connell, and I'm a big proponent, as you know, and if you're a fan of the show, you know that I say this all the time, is now defenses have film on you, on Aiden O'Connell. And what I saw on film wasn't fantastic. So unless he just absolutely got so much better in the offseason, which honestly I don't think he's going to. I think he is what he is. I think he could get a little more accurate. That's probably about as good as he's going to get. I think he's a good backup quarterback in my opinion. He's a good spot starter, but overall I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's just me personally. Now, if he ended up being the quarterback for the Raiders, because all the other options failed, I'm not going to be like, I can't believe the Raiders. I'm not mad at him. I don't hate him. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's just my personal opinion. I would much rather draft a guy. I think Fields would bring us a dynamic that we haven't had for a decade. Mm-hmm. A guy who can run at any point. I think Fields has a really good arm. I think he would do really well with this offensive line, and I think he would do well with the offensive weapons that he has. My issue with Fields is he doesn't seem to go through his progressions like we would want in an NFL quarterback. And I kind of am very worried about Justin Fields. I don't think it's necessarily he's a bad talent or he can't do this and can't do that. I think he's really good, and he's probably going to be successful overall. Mm-hmm. But in my honest opinion, I don't think he is a guy who is going to get out of his own way. And what I mean by that is I think he's kind of stuck in his ways now, unfortunately, because he's been in the league for a minute now. Mm-hmm. And he's making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. And you could argue, hey, it's the offensive line in Chicago. They don't have that many offensive weapons. Fine. But I don't see the change in Justin Fields at all. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen him get better. I've seen him run more. I've seen him have more success when he runs more. But I haven't seen him get better. And there's a difference there. And so I'm not about that. I don't think there's really any free agent quarterback that I'm gonna, drop my panties for. I just think, there's not much out there. I mean, listen, Russell Wilson, I think I could get behind that. Mm-hmm. But I would, first and foremost, of course, I would love to go after Caleb Williams. I think that would be fantastic. Caleb Williams, honestly, to me, looks like a Raider quarterback. I don't know why. Maybe it's just I've put it in my head so many times that maybe I just think he's a Raider quarterback, but he kind of looks like a Raider quarterback. Mm-hmm. Now, if we can't get him, Chicago holds all the cards here. I would say Caleb actually holds all the cards. He could ultimately say, I'm not going to play for Chicago, and they could draft him, but then, never have him.
Pull an Eli Manning.
Yeah. But all in all, I think if that doesn't work, the next best thing I think you need to go after is, I don't think you're going to get Drake May. I think he's going to be like the very next player to go, or next quarterback, at least top 5.
Did you see the video that Merrill Hodge said about Drake May on Colin Cowherd's show? He doesn't think he's a first round quarterback.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm honestly, I'm glad Merrill Hodge said that, because I'm kind of with him. I've seen some. Now, I haven't watched all of him, so I take this with a grain of salt. But I have not been impressed with everything that I have seen of Drake May. I'm not really impressed. With Caleb Williams, I think he's going to have to kind of get out of the whole, scramble around for 10 minutes and then find a receiver. That's not going to work in the NFL. I mean, we always say that, and people are like, oh, you wait. No, listen, it doesn't work in the NFL. The guys in the NFL are just as fast. Yeah, the guys in the NFL are just as fast.
Yeah.
So it's not about your speed. You have to be strong. You have to be able to stay calm under pressure. And I don't think he's proven that just yet, but I do think he could be really good. But I think the next guy that you're going to go after, if you're the Raiders, Caleb Williams, is off the table, is Jaden Daniels. And the reason I say that, not because he's the Heisman Trophy winner, but I think because he has that relationship with Antonio Pierce. And I think those two quarterbacks are really the ones that make sense. Now, if you cannot get any of those two quarterbacks, I think you can maybe draft one later on if you want. But then you got to go after free agent guys. I think that's going to be your only option. And I could see, and I know this is going to make your skin crawl, I could see a scenario where the Bears draft Caleb Williams, they trade Justin Fields somewhere else, and so the Raiders have to go after like a Sam Darnold, and then have Aiden O'Connell as well. And I don't hate it. I know a lot of people don't. I mean, you hear Sam Darnold, you're like, oh shit. But I think that's why I would rather go in the draft. If you can't get that, I think your next best option is either Justin Fields, which I don't think is that bad, but I think he's kind of stuck in his ways, or you could go after like a Russell Wilson. But now you're going to have to go a little hard at Russell Wilson, and I'm not sure that would work. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, if I think your first option is draft, so you're not really going to look in free agency unless you absolutely have to. And if the draft fails, then you're going to have to go after. You're going to have to stick with Aiden O'Connell, and then maybe sign like a Sam Darnold type.
You're really in love with Sam Darnold.
I was. I'm not.
Sound like you still are.
Well, I mean, he's on the market and he's got an arm. I know he gets hurt, but honestly, I would probably still start Aiden O'Connell over Sam Darnold. I mean, unless Darnold absolutely wows him at practice. But the issue with Darnold is his decision making. He just makes too many mistakes. So, yeah, and Aiden O'Connell doesn't really make those mistakes. He's very conservative and sometimes to a fault. But you're going to take that over a guy who's going to give the other team a pick six, you know?
Yeah. Well, anyone that spends any time in Carolina, you got to get out quickly before it ruins your career, and almost ruined Sam Darnold. So yeah, luckily he got out. So I guess here's the thing. I agree. I would, if I were the Raiders, I would focus on drafting a quarterback, because here's what's tough, man. Aiden O'Connell's he's a decent quarterback. He made it in the NFL. He was a 4th round draft pick. I mean, no offense, but Brock Purdy was the very last pick in the draft. And by all, I guess, objected standards and according to the draft, that means Aiden O'Connell should be better than Brock Purdy, right? Because he was drafted 4th round compared to Mr. Irrelevant. But fact of the matter is Aiden O'Connell he was a typical quarterback out of the 4th round. He had some problems. He had a game against the Chiefs where I think he only threw for like 90 yards or something like that, some really low number. And it was really tough. Now, again, the Chiefs have a really great defense at the time. So rookie quarterback, we're kind of going through a little thing with having an interim coach and all that stuff. So we'll just throw that out there. Now, Aiden O'Connell did show improvement throughout. So it was looking better. But for me, there's still just a lot of questions that I have. This is how I also feel. I don't know if I want to waste any more of Devontae Adams' time, because I was even saying on Marco Polo at some points, like, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if we just traded Devontae Adams and helped him out. Just like, we're going to rebuild. I don't know if you wanted to hang out with us and while we go through it, but he was down for it. We're going to keep him. We're going to go from there. So I would actually be okay, if not in favor of trading for Justin Fields, if there was not a quarterback that we felt we would get that we love. Like, for example, if we wanted to go after Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, and that's it. Those are the only 2 on our boards. And it's like, if we don't get these guys, plan B or C in this scenario would be Justin Fields, right? I'm okay with that. Like, according to a lot of these analysts and experts, those are like the 2 top quarterbacks. Like we just talked about, Drake May has a lot of question marks. I actually like Michael Penix Jr. Does that mean, though, that the Raiders should go after him? There's other quarterbacks, JJ McCarthy, you got Bo Nix, and a handful of other quarterbacks in there. But, who we've named off are basically the top 6 quarterbacks in this draft class, right? So if the Raiders don't get any of the guys that they like, and now it's like, well, do we go for a older free agent? And the older free agents that are available are like Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, Russell Wilson. Like, do we really want to go for a wild card spot, or are we growing for the future?
If we go after Ryan Tannehill, I am not going to watch a Raider game at all.
Let me turn you on to this then. What if we sign Baker Mayfield? Because he's a free agent.
I don't hate that. I think Baker Mayfield could actually do well with the Raiders. To me, Baker Mayfield is a middle of the road quarterback. I think he's very accurate. I think he thinks he's better than what he is. Listen, the Buccaneers, they had a really good defense, and all he had to do was not mess it up. And all of Baker Mayfield's career is, he doesn't turn the ball over that much. He's not going to wow you with the deep ball, or with the scrambling ability or anything like that. He's not going to. He's a typical middle of the road quarterback who is an accurate quarterback. So to me, that actually would be better than going after like a Sam Darnold. I honestly feel like, if we had to go after, if the draft fails, Baker Mayfield is already off the table, in my opinion.
So to be clear, I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is even an option for the Raiders. I think he's actually going to re-sign with the Buccaneers. I'm just saying, according to what I saw, he's going to be an upcoming free agent. But again, my point being is there's those caliber of quarterbacks that we would essentially could go after if we don't like anyone in the draft. And again, if we don't believe that Aiden O'Connell is the guy, which I'm not 100% sold. Now, if AP and Tom Telesco go with him, am I going to be upset? No. I mean, if they feel like that they can go with him and still win, or at least grow the team, hey, they see something in him and we'll see what happens, But if we don't get the quarterback we want in the draft, if we don't believe in the free agencies that are in the market, if we're not even cool or really like 100% behind Aiden O'Connell, or maybe we just want someone that's going to compete, I think Justin Fields is a legit option. He's only 24 years old. He's been in the league for 4 years now. And in my opinion, I think Justin Fields is a new team away from being a star in the league. I think the reason why Justin Fields has such a bad name is because the Bears don't know how to develop quarterbacks. There's not one quarterback that they have developed that is somebody that is like, oh man, that's
Shane McMahon.
You mean Tim McMahon, or what's his name? His last name is McMahon. It's not Tim. It's not Shane.
Oh,
You're
it's
thinking
Jim.
of
It's Jim McMahon.
Jim McMahon. That's
Jim
what it is.
McMahon. That's
And
right.
then, yeah. And then
I'm
also
thinking
you,
of the guy who
you
broke
have
his
Jay
ankles.
Cutler, who is your franchise leader in a lot of stats. You know, like, no offense, Jay Cutler is not a Hall of Fame quarterback. And so the Bears just don't have a great track record with drafting or developing quarterbacks. So I think to say that Justin Fields is not a great quarterback is not fair considering where he's going to. I really do think that if Justin Fields is in a team that develops a quarterback right, like if he ends up on the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say totally different conversation. If he goes to, like, let's say the Seahawks, completely different conversation. If he finds his way to some other team, I think that the Raiders, if they got him, yes, it gives us another element, but I think that he would actually develop very, very well. Like, Justin Fields needs to leave Chicago to be the best Justin Fields, in my opinion. So that's why I'm not opposed to the Raiders maybe taking a chance on Justin Fields. Also, because he's been in this league, he knows the speed of the game, whereas some of these rookie quarterbacks, however, you know, maybe Caleb Williams can adjust to the speed. Maybe Jaden Daniels can, because, you know, he's worked with AP, or he was recruited by AP. So maybe that will all shake out. But what if those guys aren't available? What's our next option? Do we trust Drake May if he falls to us? You know, like, maybe I would take a shot on Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. But also, too, like, if we have a guy that's available that is a diamond in the rough that we just need to work on, and he's got NFL experience and he's super young, he's 24. I don't know. Maybe that's enticing. It's hard not to think about. So I'm just putting that out there. But again, I want to make it clear, I would draft for the future, because that's what the smart teams do, is they draft for the future and they build around that. Like, what's Colin Cowherd say is, you worry about your line, you go to the quarterback, and then you go to your defense. And then that's how you kind of build your championship window, because you got to make sure you get your window or to the championship while you're within your quarterback's rookie deal. Because once you pay your quarterback, it's very hard to go back to the Super Bowl, because you're so cap stricken. You got to cut this player, and a lot of these guys that can help you win, you got to get rid of them because too much money on the books, and, you know, so on and so forth. So
actually, it's quarterback, pass rusher, and then offensive line. That's what he says. Great. Just letting you know.
All right.
No, I don't hate that. You know, listen, I don't hate Justin Fields. I just think there is a lot to like about him, but there are some things to not like about him. And I kind of am worried that he's going to be stuck in his ways, because if he came to the Raiders, he would have literally the same OC that he had, that we were kind of complaining about in Chicago, which could be valid, and it could be where, it was just the head coach, he wasn't letting him do this or that or whatever. So, and he would be playing in a dome in Vegas. So at least half of the games you're in a dome. Actually, more than half of the games, because then you go to SoFi Stadium at least once, and you know,
really, Kansas City is really the only outdoor
Kansas
game.
City and Denver.
Yeah, those are the two that you'd have to really worry about. And then also, to your point that you made, is he would have Devontae Adams, if we did get Justin Fields. Yeah, you would have Devontae Adams to throw the ball to, and Devontae Adams makes everyone look great. And you can make the argument he's quarterback proof, where you can put any quarterback there and he'll make it work. But can you imagine that type of receiver that's there with that quarterback that's young, that just needs to see? Because I think Justin Fields can throw in this league. I just don't. Yeah. I just think that what happened is he had a head coach or an OC. I really think it was more the head coach that really just try to get Justin in a rhythm, but so much so to where it was almost offensive. The game plan was to where, we're not even going to let you throw it down the field. You can just do a screen pass. Fortunately, he had players that were able to break free for long gains, and it looked great, but realistically, he threw it 3 yards, which is not really fair to Justin Fields, because I'm sure he can throw the ball really well.
Oh, he can.
If he can get into rhythm, and if, you know, you can get that guy open. And I don't think it's fair to say that Justin Fields can't make all the throws or whatever. Like, I don't think his head coach really schemed up anything for him. And yeah, sure, like, does Justin Fields miss throws whenever he gets that opportunity? I'm sure, but so does Patrick Mahomes. So does Justin Herbert. Name another quarterback. They're going to miss players, but they're also given opportunities to take those shots. And I felt like at least Justin Fields, his game plans half the time look like they were more to hinder him. Like, we're going to make him a pocket quarterback. Well, clearly that's not his best game. He's a rollout. He's going to maybe be an RPO, more of like a Lamar Jackson type of situation, but we're not even playing to his strengths. We're almost like offensively changing it to make him something he's not comfortable with, and then getting on him for not adapting well. And it's like, well, he's having to relearn how to play football all over again. You're changing him completely from what his DNA is to something, and he's doing pretty well. It's just not up to the expectations that the Bears are hoping for. But again, the Bears have never developed a quarterback, never. So I'll get off this Justin Fields soapbox.
Actually, I was thinking of the draft, and yes, Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams would be my number one go-to. But a guy that you could get in later rounds that I think actually has matured, and I'm kind of starting to. He had a really good year this past year in college. Would be Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler has a really good arm. Mm-hmm. He has the scramble ability. He does make some bonehead plays, but he would be, to me, an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell, and I wouldn't hate that if that was the only option we had, or at that point, or draft him and then go after some free agent and keep Aiden O'Connell and see what plays out.
Sure. If I'm also being completely,
someone I was going to throw out.
That's okay. I'm not a fan of his attitude and maturity, but whatever. I'm with you. I wasn't, but this past year he's definitely matured. I watched a lot of his interviews, and going into college and not being as successful as he was in high school has humbled him a ton. Yeah. A couple of quarterbacks that, again, I know I threw these names out and almost say throwaway, but I would actually be very excited if they were drafted to the team is Bo Nix. I actually saw a couple games of him.
I love Bo Nix.
Bo Nix has got an arm. I really like him. And then honestly, I know I'm not trying to disrespect. Probably. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect Michael Penix Jr. I'm just saying his grade is kind of like second rounder or whatever.
Yeah. I
actually like his game. I really think that he would be a huge compliment to the Raiders. And I actually would be super excited if we traded for him. In fact, like I'm almost saying, like, I'm not expecting us to trade up to number one to get, Williams or Daniels. Like I'm kind of okay with that. Like they're probably going to go wherever. But if we hung around the second round and traded up in the second round, if we felt like we wanted to, I'm cool with getting Penix Jr. I think that would be a smart move for the Raiders, especially if your first round pick at 13, you go with a defensive player, which it sounds like they will. And then, in your second round, or maybe trade back into the first round to get that quarterback that you want. I'm okay with that because I think that Penix Jr. and Nix, I think, are quarterbacks that I don't want to say overdraft, but I would be okay if the Raiders reached for, because I think that they've got a lot for them,
I like the Nix move. My only worry with Penix Jr. is he's not really a scrambler, and I think we kind of need a guy who can at least scramble a little bit. We've been stuck with that for 10 plus years. So I do think we need someone who can kind of move around. Like honestly, when Jimmy Garoppolo was scrambling, that really helped move our offense. I think we need a guy who can move, and unfortunately, Penix Jr. is not a guy who can move. He's got a really nice arm, but we saw in the championship that when there's defense in your face, he can't really do anything, and I think that was a little worrisome for me. So, but I do like him. I wouldn't hate it if we got him. So I'm with you.